So once again, thank you for your attendance at this meeting. We wanted to start by just acknowledging that for the past year, we've not been in a position to be able to communicate with our community as much as we would like. And part of that is because we've been navigating a transition to the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, which is now complete. We're very, very excited about this transition of the administrative, analytical and support function of MalariaGEN, and we'll talk about that a little bit more throughout the presentation. But we are hoping to hold this type of meeting more frequently in the future. So to begin with, we wanted to just provide a brief opportunity to introduce the leadership team of the MalariaGEN UK team. So as you may or may not know, Alistair Miles, who led the Vector programme, left MalariaGEN in May last year, and Christina Ariani, who led the Parasite programme, left MalariaGEN in July last year. When we communicated this to our funders, we were able to provide significant reassurance about another layer of leadership that was immediately ready to step up with long-serving commitment to MalariaGEN and knowledge of all the things that make it as special as it is. So it's a testament to that depth and breadth of knowledge that we're able to continue in our efforts. So Chris, can I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks, Vicky. So I took over from Alistair as the leader of the MalariaGEN Vector portfolio in May this year. But prior to that, I've been working in MalariaGEN for over a decade now, and have been co-leading the Vector team with Alistair. And even prior to that, I've been collaborating with MalariaGEN as part of my PhD I did at LSTM. And I'm just really excited about expanding and strengthening MalariaGEN tools and resources at the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, and deepening collaboration to meet the needs of the malaria genomic surveillance community. I'll pass you over now to Anastasia.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. I have been leading on the technical strategy and implementation side for MalariaGEN since last year. And you might know me better from my previous role leading on the data science operations in the Vector Observatory, also working with MalariaGEN. And as part of the transition, I'm really looking forward to working closely with our scientific and public health partners to ensure all of our MalariaGEN data and tools evolve consistently with the needs of the community, and also that are sustainable and strengthen the overall value of all of our shared resources. I'll pass over to Richard.
Thanks, Anastasia. So hi, I'm Richard Pearson. I took over from Christina as leader of the malaria parasite programme July last year. I actually joined MalariaGEN Dominic's team back in 2012 and have been working in the MalariaGEN Resource Centre ever since then. So during my time, I guess I have been somewhat in the background, but really looking forward to being more involved in shaping things going forwards. So I shall hand back to Vicky.
Thank you, Richard. And so my name is Vicky Simpson. I've been working with MalariaGEN for 16 years now in the kind of community and partnership space, as well as governance and policy development. We also have, as a presenter today, Professor Martin Donnelly. I wondered, Martin, could I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, so medicine. I'm obviously working for a number of years with the MalariaGEN team, mainly on the vector genomics aspects. I just sort of help facilitate the transfer of the MalariaGEN team up to Liverpool, and they're now sitting within the Department of Vector Biology, although they have sort of ability to move freely across our departments and sort of wherever the science and the outreach takes them. So very nice to be with you all today.
Thank you. Chris, can I ask you to go forwards?
Yeah, thanks, Vicky. Thanks, Martin. So yeah, as we've just heard, LSTM has been a long-standing partner with MalariaGEN, most notably in vectors over the last decade or so, but also with our in-country targeted sequencing work in both vector and parasite. And the next phase of MalariaGEN is to decentralize our activities, so increase the capability and capacity, particularly for the generation, maintenance and growth of MalariaGEN resources to sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. And moving to LSTM, I think, is a real allows us to leverage LSTM's great experience in capacity development and training to be able to facilitate this decentralization of MalariaGEN. And LSTM's mission to undertake world-class translational research to improve health outcomes for disadvantaged populations around the world completely aligns with MalariaGEN. And if we just have the next slide, Kate. So yeah, LSTM is a strategic fit for MalariaGEN, and MalariaGEN is a strategic fit for LSTM. We are very much aligned, and this is all of our happy faces on our first trip to LSTM altogether after the transition at the end of last year. Can we have the next slide? Cool. So I just wanted to sort of clarify MalariaGEN community assets, and even though we've been through this transitionary process, that everything is still as it was. So MalariaGEN is a data sharing community. It's not about a specific institution, and that's a global community, and the community assets are as strong as ever. And these are built on trust and on really strong data sharing agreements that balance the needs of the research community, so the ability, ownership of data and publishing, but also with the pressure to get data out as quickly as possible for public health needs, for it to be impactful. So all of the data and the data sharing agreements are all as they have ever been. The data platforms are all still going, multiple entry points. So both parasite and vector platforms. Data can be sequenced by MalariaGEN, by partners. Partners can run data through pipelines and add it to the MalariaGEN resource. And those pipelines themselves are open source resources. So in fact, not just the pipelines, which are in multiple workflow languages, depending on what you want to run them on, but also the training is all open. And we offer sort of an open compute through Google Colab for you to be able to look at those tools. Partner support, we're always here to help with interpretation and communication. And the MalariaGEN website, we're planning on doing a bit of a revamp, but all of these resources can be found at www.malariagen.net. And I'd just like to, just in case you missed what's been happening over the last few months, if we go to the next slide, Kate. So it's been a bit of a crazy year last year for MalariaGEN. We were 20 years old, which is no mean feat, but a bunch of other exciting stuff happened as well alongside the move to LSTM. We released a bunch of training modules to work on the new Phenestus part of the Vector Observatory. So the Phenestus has its own API, and these training modules, which are available by the website, take you through the nuances compared to the Gambi genome. Anastasia and Jon worked on the Google Summer of Code, so they mentored a couple of students building tools for the malaria community, which was super cool. Vicky worked with Africa CDC Technical Working Group to deliver genomic surveillance strategy. We ran the 4th cohort of the Vector Genomic Surveillance entry-level training course. PF8 and associated apps and tutorials were released. And we published lots of papers, including this picture of global artemisinin resistance, which came out of the parasite team. And all this, while we were transitioning to LSTM. So if I could get the next slide. Okay, so looking forward for MalariaGEN, I think what we're hoping this move to LSTM will help us with is the agility to respond quickly to partner needs, particularly the flexibility to implement a multi-center model for MalariaGEN, the ability to integrate increasing diversification of data generation platforms and data formats, and to increase our collaborative research and training activities. Particularly for our training, the demand is much higher than our ability to meet in terms of sort of in-person training. The resources are all there for self-directed training. So we're really looking forward to being able to expand the reach of those. And often talked about, we're working towards holding the next GEM meeting on the continent. I'd like to go into a little bit more detail, but I'll pass over, I think, to Anastasia to talk a little bit more about data and technology.
Thanks, Chris. As Chris was saying, there has been a lot going on, and we thought we would give you a quick roundup of some big efforts that have been going on in the background. You might have already heard about many of this, and you have probably been part of many of this too. So just starting with the MalariaGEN physical sample resource project, where over 200,000 malaria-related samples were returned to partners from the Wellcome Sanger Institute, so that this project has now been completed. We would also like to highlight on the human data side of things, the current human data resource is securely stored and accessed via managed access through EGA. We're currently exploring a new data access committee model to ensure that all MalariaGEN principles of managed access are maintained, but all current requests to access this data are still going through the current data access committee, and so currently there are no changes, and as soon as there are any proposals, we will contact all of the data owners involved. For parasite and Anopheles data, both of the data resources are secure on ENA with analysis-ready data available on private cloud. For both of these resources, the access to data and the ways of interacting with them, including all terms of use, will remain exactly the same. And we are doing our absolute best to ensure that no partner activities are disrupted during the transition. Our priority is to ensure that all the data and tools that we take care of remain safe and sustainable long term. So we are also conducting a review of all tools and platforms that still support MalariaGEN. So as part of this, we might be deprecating some tools and technologies. For example, you might have heard of My Studies if you were a partner using that platform, but we will continue reviewing this and contacting any affected users as we work through things. I appreciate this. There's a lot of information here, but we're very happy to take any questions around this at the end. Talking more broadly about the Malaria Vector Observatory and where are we at today. So right now we have integrated over 30,000 mosquito samples across 67 partner studies. 4,000 of these samples have been integrated this year. This includes SNP, CNVs, and face haplotypes for all of these mosquitoes. This includes data from over 30 countries, and our latest data is from last year, which is very exciting, and includes 17 different Anopheles species. And something we're very excited about is that it now also integrates multiple entry points. So this means that we have processed data from multiple sequencing platforms, including Illumina and DNB-seq, and also data that has been sequenced by academic providers, but also from external commercial suppliers. And also we have integrated not just raw data, but also analysis-ready data, which is data coming from external partners who have run the MalariaGEN pipelines on-prem or their own services, and now they have sent the data back to us to integrate it into the observatory, which is quite exciting. To talk about vector collaboration, I'll pass back to Chris.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight some of the cool ways that the malaria community is using these resources. You know, the aim here is to accelerate the generation, utilization, and sharing of genomic insights to detect and characterize emerging evolutionary threats to malaria vector control in Africa. We've got Brandy St. Laurent, Tristan Dennis. They've been collaborating with MalariaGEN, adding the Southeast Asian vector, Anopheles dirus, to join Anopheles minimus in the observatory. Tristan again has been working with us to add the invasive vector Anopheles stevensii to the resource. And Jacob Crawford is adding some samples from the Americas for the first time with Anopheles dahlingii. So data and tools for working with these species will be available in the Vector Observatory very shortly. Next slide. In the Senegambia region, there's been a national rollout of dual AO bed nets. So this is chlorphenapyr and pyrethroids. And we've got a Welcome Discovery Award led by El Hadji Amadou Niang from Senegal to explore the evolutionary trajectories and vector control impact of this insecticide combo. And so this includes Benoit Sessanou Sogba from the Gambia, Austin Burt from the UK. And we're looking to whole genome sequence about 12,000 samples, amplicon sequence about, I think, 7,000 more. And it also includes building a semi-field system in Senegal. So this is a really cool project leveraging the MalariaGEN Vector Observatory. And one more, okay, thanks. And this example here, collaborating with Lucas Amengaratego, we've been pushing the envelope for returning analysis-ready data to partners as fast as possible. And so this is part of the IMPAVES project, and recently added around 1,300 mosquitoes collected from 19 locations across 4 shipments. And as Anastasia mentioned, this is the 2025 data that we've got in the Vector Observatory that comes from this project. It's also a great example of the partner support work that MalariaGEN can provide with a recently submitted manuscript revealing previously unknown population structure in Ghana. I'd like to just pass over to Richard to give a bit of an overview of the parasite space.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so on the parasite side, we're currently building the next set of public data releases. So PF9, the next falciparum release, will be released middle of this year with over 50,000 whole genome sequence samples. A particularly exciting aspect of this is that it includes about 6,000 samples that are publicly available in repositories such as the ENA and the SRA, so samples that weren't sequenced at the Sanger Institute. So that's been a significant piece of data curation work, but I think this has been time well spent. And yeah, I'd really very much like to position MalariaGEN as the aggregators of the world's genomic data going forwards, and hence the recent rebranding as the Parasite Observatory. Then following PF9, there'll be a Plasmodium vivax release, PV5, including all of the whole genome sequence data sequenced at the Sanger Institute. Now, the analysis-ready data for these releases is very large. So, for example, the VCFs for PF8 were in the order of 2 terabytes, and for PF9, we're going to be approaching 5 terabytes. We recognise that these data volumes are a major barrier to entry for the resource. So one way we've tackled this is by converting VCFs to the XAR format and made this data available on Google Cloud via the Malaria Data Python package. And in addition, we've created example analysis notebooks that are free to use on Google Colab, and act as both training resources, but also as starting points for other analyses. It is, of course, possible to download the VCFs, but we do recognise that this will be impracticable for many users, especially those with limited internet bandwidth and compute resource. So a key tool we've created allowing access to the full data resource is PF HaploAtlas. So this is a web app to study and track mutations in any PF gene, requiring nothing more than a low bandwidth internet connection. Originally, we launched this with the PF7 data. We've recently updated to PF8 data, and we'll be creating versions of this both for PF9 and for the PV5 data resources. So I would encourage everyone to have a play with this. It really is very, very easy to use. But I'd really like to understand what else could help the community. So, for examples might be creating smaller VCFs of high frequency SNPs only, training in analysing the data on the cloud, and so forth. So please do reach out to me if you've any ideas about ways in which we could help the community. And finally, we've been thinking about harmonizing data across whole genome sequence and targeted sequencing. And I think a natural way to do this is to call all possible SNPs at all possible genome positions. And this is the approach that's been working well for vector whole genome work for some while now. Also, the current pipeline is becoming very computationally demanding, and it's unclear whether this will continue to scale. So whereas with the vector model, the all SNPs pipeline, it's essentially infinitely scalable. So with this model, new samples can simply be slotted into the global resource. And this approach, I think, also combines well with what we've been doing in PF9, namely pulling data, public data from repositories such as the ENA. We're currently planning a proof of concept for this alternative pipeline, really to integrate whole genome and targeted sequencing data from the various different panels. I'm happy to discuss with anyone interested on this. So next slide, please, Kate. So on this slide, I really just want to say that like the vector team, the parasite team is very much open to collaborative research. So one recent example of such research we've been working on is a project separately funded by the Gates on designing peptide vaccines. So to date, this has involved collaborations with both Stanford University and the University of New South Wales, but we're also looking to collaborate with others going forwards. We're essentially using MalariaGEN data to determine things such as strain conservation, indel frequency, but then combining this with other data sets. For example, omics data on levels of gene expression, predicted binding to HLAs, and so forth. So this work's been led by Jacob Almagro Garcia, who's currently on paternity leave, but he'll be back from early next month. And in addition, as already mentioned, the move to LSTM really opens up opportunities for collaborative research. So please do reach out if you have ideas, particularly around analysis of whole genome resources, but also anything else you think we could add value to. Finally, another really positive development for me is with the LSTM move is that I'll be supervising Thomas Katairo's PhD, which he's recently started. So Thomas will be based mostly at IDRC in Uganda, but is also hoping to spend some time in Liverpool. And Thomas will initially be looking at methods for determining recrudescence versus reinfection from TES samples in Uganda. But then he'll be getting into whole genome sequence data, including comparing bioinformatics methods and determining signatures of selection. So with that, we'll go on to the next slide, and I'll hand back over to Vicky.
Thank you, Richard. So this is the last slide in the presentation deck before we open up for discussion and questions. There is a Q&A and chat function. Please feel free to write things in there, and I'll do my best to moderate the discussion so we still finish within the time frame. So the last area that we wanted to raise was around MalariaGEN governance. So we have MalariaGEN has always had a governance framework. The most recent iteration is the governance committee, which was established in 2021, and it provides oversight of the network, of our activities, of policies, of procedures, of data, how it's used, etc. And additionally, they also provide intellectual challenge. So we have senior subject matter experts, and they can really feed in on MalariaGEN strategy, particularly around securing additional funding. Looking forward, we are, as the domain is evolving, we're keen to explore a more community-led governance model. We would like to have more people involved in it. We are actively seeking input from the community about how MalariaGEN should be governed and by whom. And we do want this. We have our own thoughts around how it could be, but it is important to us that the future of MalariaGEN governance is co-developed with the MalariaGEN community. We are planning on circulating a survey to gather kind of broad input, but discussions with individuals or small groups would also be very, very welcome, as they can provide some kind of deeper insights. Please reach out to me directly or use the support at malariagen.net, as I'll be spearheading this on behalf of the MalariaGEN team. To be completely transparent and clear, the MalariaGEN Governance Committee, as is, will continue in their role until we have a new governance process in place, and we have a process for changing governance frameworks, which we have used twice before, I think, and we will be following that to have no interruption in MalariaGEN governance.